You've been told that AI is going to make you more productive. Here's the strange part. The companies betting $750 billion on that idea can't actually find its supposed productivity. And they're firing people anyway. So I want to ask a simple question. If the AI works, why are so many people losing their jobs? And if it doesn't work, why is big tech paying for it? And stick around until the end, because underneath both is an even stranger question the companies spending money don't seem to care to ask. If this all does work, who's left earning a wage to buy anything? Let's start with a promise, because it's a good one. For about 3 years now, every earnings call, every keynote, every glossy launch video has told us the same thing. Artificial intelligence is a productivity revolution. Do more with less. A tireless digital assistant for every worker on Earth. And businesses believed it, and they spent. In 2024, companies put about $11.5 billion into generative AI. In 2025, that more than tripled to $37 billion. By 2026, 88% of organisations said they were using AI in at least one part of the business. The tools were everywhere. The co-pilots, the chatbots, the let AI write that for you. The pitch was simple, and it was seductive. Pay for the AI now, and it pays you back in productivity forever. Hold on to that word, productivity. Everything that follows depends on whether it actually showed up. Now, to deliver that promise, 4 companies went to war with their own bank accounts. Microsoft, Amazon, Google and Meta. In 2023, between them, they spent $107 billion on AI and data centers. The next year, 256. The year after, somewhere north of 400 billion. And for 2026, their combined projected spend is around $725 billion. That's $725 billion in a single year. That's nearly 7 times what they spent 3 years earlier. Per company, Amazon 200 billion, Microsoft 190, Google about the same, Meta up to 145. The clearest winner so far isn't even an AI company. It's the one selling the shovels. Nvidia's data center revenue went up 569%. Keep that scale in your head. $750 billion in a year. Because now we check the receipts. In August 2025, researchers at MIT did something inconvenient. They actually measured it. They looked at 300 AI deployments, interviewed 150 leaders, surveyed 350 employees. And they found out that 95% of enterprise AI pilots delivered no measurable return. None. 0 impact on the bottom line. Not because the technology doesn't work. The report was clear about that. It's that most companies couldn't turn impressive demo into actual money. And of the companies that did report a benefit, most saw cost savings of under 10%. Revenue gains of under 5%. There was one genuine bright spot: writing software. Coding tools were the one place AI clearly earned its keep. Even there, the gains were more like 10-15%. Useful, real, but not the revolution that pays for $1 trillion. And it hasn't fixed itself with time. As of 2026, even though nearly 9 in 10 companies use AI somewhere, only about 7% have actually scaled it across the business. The other 90-odd% are still politely experimenting. So here's where we are. The great productivity revolution. Mostly produced press releases. 2 years, $1 trillion, and so far the headline result is that AI is really good at writing emails nobody reads. Which brings us to the part that isn't abstract at all. The jobs. There is a firm called Challenger. For decades they have counted one thing: announced job cuts in America every year. So we have the receipts going back a long way. And yes, these are American numbers, but that's exactly where we should look. The companies doing the spending are American. The US is the epicenter of the whole build-out. And where Silicon Valley leads on this, the rest of us tend to follow a year or two behind. Watch this. For years before AI, layoffs run at a fairly steady level. Call it 500,000 a year. 2015 through 2019. Then 2020, over 2 million people get laid off. But that's COVID. We throw that out. That's not a fair fight. And right after, layoffs actually fell. 2021 and 2022, companies were hiring like mad. The lowest layoffs in years. Then ChatGPT lands, and the line doesn't just climb, it erupts. By 2025, 1.2 million cuts in a single year, the highest since the pandemic. So strip it down to one fact. In the AI era, American layoffs have roughly doubled from about 500,000 a year to nearly 1 million. Now, honesty time, because this is where bad videos lie to you. Most of this is not AI. Only about 1 in 20 of those cuts actually blamed AI. The rest is interest rates, tariffs, post-COVID hangover. So anyone tells you AI fired 1 million people is selling something, which is exactly what the companies doing the firing would like you to believe. Because here's where the 1 in 20 stops being a footnote. Zoom into tech, the very companies spending the billions, and it becomes the whole story. Tech cut over 150,000 jobs last year, and in 2026 it's barely half over, and it's already past 145,000. For the first time ever, AI is the #1 reasons companies give for cutting at all. And it has names. Amazon, 14,000 corporate jobs, the biggest cull ever, announced in the same breath as its AI budget. Salesforce, 4,000, Duolingo, a tenth of its staff. Klarna bragged that one AI assistant did the work of 700 people. Though to be fair to the humans, Klarna quietly walked back on that one. Turns out the robots needed adult supervision. Now, a fair objection and a smart one, I want to give it its due. Plenty of clever people will tell you it has nothing to do with AI. It's a COVID hangover, it's high interest rates, tariffs, a shaky global economy. Companies are just trimming the fat. And honestly, across most of the economy, they're right. But here's the part that doesn't add up. You cannot cry poverty and spend $200 billion in the same breath. Amazon cut 14,000 people the same year it raised its AI budget to $200 billion. In 2026, Oracle cut around 30,000 in a single round, its biggest ever, while spending furiously on AI data centers. Microsoft, Meta, Salesforce, every one of them is tightening its belt, whilst writing the biggest checks in corporate history. This is not a company that's run out of money. It's a company moving money from one column to another, from payroll to silicon. And remember, why? They said they were spending it to make everyone more productive. So one of two things is true. Either the AI is working, and more productive was always just a polite way of saying fewer of you, or it isn't working, and they're cutting your job on the strength of a promise. You don't spend $1 trillion because times are hard. You spend it when you've decided that people are the expensive part. So you might ask yourself, if it's not buying productivity yet, where is $750 billion a year actually going? Mostly in a circle. Microsoft funds OpenAI. OpenAI spends it on cloud computing, much of it back with Microsoft, The cloud giants spend it on chips from Nvidia. Everyone's revenue goes up, everyone's valuation goes up, and a surprising amount of it is the same money going round and around in a circle. And the gap underneath it is staggering. OpenAI is committed to spend up to $600 billion on infrastructure by 2030. Its actual revenue last year, $13 billion. Now, whether the whole circular machine is a bubble waiting to pop is an enormous question. Big enough that it's getting its own video. Honestly, it's the one I'm probably making next. So I'll save the autopsy for that. For today, you only need the part that touches your job. The money flooding into AI isn't, so far, coming back out as profit. It's going into the circle. And some of it is being funded by cutting the very people we just counted. This isn't fraud. It's all out in the open, on the earnings calls. It's just deeply unusual structure to bet an economy on. The question was never, is it a scam? It's the one the whole channel keeps asking. Does the maths add up? So let's put the three numbers next to each other, because together they tell the story. Spend, $750 billion a year. Return, 95% of projects, nothing measurable. Jobs, the highest cut since the pandemic. Put it bluntly, companies are cutting headcount now on the promise of productivity boom that, by the actual numbers, mostly hasn't arrived. They're booking the savings before the gains exist. That's the false economy. Not a lie, a bet. A bet that AI will eventually be worth what they're paying. And until it is, the down payment is being made in people. And notice who goes first. Not the truck drivers, not the trades. The first jobs under pressure are the ones closest to the computer. Engineers, analysts, marketers, support staff. The very jobs we were told were the safe ones. Goldman Sachs reckons 300 million jobs worldwide are exposed to this over the next decade. That's not a prediction of doom. It's just a very large number to be wrong about. Now here's the part that should keep the executives up at night more than it keeps us up. No single company can stop. If Microsoft makes its workers twice as productive, Google has to match it or lose. Then Meta, then Amazon. Nobody actually chose this race, but once it started, the only thing worse than running it is being the one company that didn't. So they all cut at the same time. And that's fine for any one company. The problem is what happens when everyone wins. Because here's the thing we keep forgetting. The worker you just automated was also a customer. They earned a wage. They spent it on software, on subscriptions, on the very products these companies sell. 100 years ago, Henry Ford paid his workers enough to afford the cars they were building. We're running that idea in reverse. If the race actually succeeds, if AI really does replace the engineers, analysts, marketeers and support staff, then we haven't just automated the jobs, we've automated the salaries. And it's a very hard sell, a $400 a month AI subscription to a customer you've just made unemployed. And that's the stranger question I asked you to hold on to at the start. Here it is in full. In the rush to replace every expensive human, is anyone checking who's left to buy the thing at the end? And before anyone says it, yes, most of the economy is business selling to other businesses, not straight to consumers. But follow any one of those chains far enough and there's a human at the bottom. Earning a wage, spending it. Take enough of them out and you're left with AI selling to AI, buying from AI, money going around in a loop with nobody at the end, which raises a genuinely strange question. What is the money even for? Now, maybe it works out. New technology always destroyed jobs and eventually invented new ones. The farmers become factory workers become office workers. Maybe the office workers become something. Nobody's quite sure what. And you'll notice nobody's betting $750 billion on that part. So we might just be the first civilization to spend a fortune at full speed, engineering away its own customers, and filing it under efficiency. Why would anyone architect their own downfall? Because the company next door was about to do it first. So picture 2035 three ways. Door 1, the bet pays off. Productivity finally lands, the economy grows, and we mostly forget we were ever worried. It's happened before, every big technology eventually earns its keep. Door 2, the productivity never quite arrives, but the headcount cuts already did. Same output, half the people. The difference quietly booked as efficiency, forever. Door 3, AI doesn't fail, it wins. It really can do all the work, and it turns out we just don't need any of us doing it. No fresh wave of jobs show up to replace the old one. So the only way the economy keeps turning is if somebody, realistically the government, simply pays people to exist. Universal basic income, a wage for being alive, funded by the machines that took all the work. Call it a utopia or a gilded cage, depending on the day. That whole world is a video in itself, one for another day. Nobody actually knows which one of the three doors we're walking through. But here's the uncomfortable bit. We're cutting the jobs now for a future we haven't confirmed is coming. The question was never really, will AI take your job? The real question is hiding under the whole thing. In a race to the bottom, who actually wins? Every one of these companies thinks the prize is being the leanest, the fastest to replace us. But that's the trap. The thing about the race to the bottom is that the reward for winning it is the bottom. So they'll spend their $750 billion, they'll keep cutting, whether it pays off or not, whether the machine does the thing they paid for, or just leaves the people poorer and the machine's busier. We're all about to find out. We're the experiment. Anyway, this channel is where we follow that money and do the maths on it. What AI is really doing to jobs, companies, and the rest of us, and whether any of it actually adds up. Subscribe and we'll work it out together, while working things out is still our job.